So what we're talking about, what we're sharing together is an illumination or a looking at, investigating what I would say are two realities. I'm suggesting there are two realities, really, in very simple terms, in this apparent life that seems to be happening. The first reality is what I would call the natural reality. Wholeness, unalloyed wholeness, simply wholeness, nothing being everything. And that reality can't be described because it can't be known. There isn't anything that can know that reality. It's not something that can be understood and grasped and held and owned. The other reality that we can share together today is what I call the separate reality, the dreamt reality. And the dreamt reality arises when there's an identification. So at a very early age, or even in the womb, there's a sudden sense of having an identity. It arises often at a very early age when the child is simply beingness. There's no sense of an identity, there just is beingness. It's the natural reality. And then something enters that natural reality. It's entered before, but suddenly another person, like the mother or someone, enters that reality, and there's a sudden awareness of another in the whole. And when directly there's an awareness of another in the whole, there's suddenly like a contraction of energy into an identity here. There's a sudden sense that there's someone, that's something in this reality, in this wholeness, and I am now something. Suddenly, those words obviously don't come to a tiny child, but energetically there's a sudden sense of something in here that's separate. And that energy, that contracted energy of being separate and having an identity grows in the body. And of course, the person that then emerges, the apparent person, the self, the I, that then grows in that, in the world, seems to meet a whole lot of other I's or selves or individuals. And there, more and more, gets confirmed the sense that I am a person, I am a real person, there are other real people, this is a real story, I was born, I'm living, and one day I'll die, so I'm on a journey in time, and the journey is real, I am real, and my sense that I can choose to influence this story of me which is real, that sense that I can influence that story is also real. The difficulty for me is that it lives in an artificial reality. This is the separate reality. The difficulty for it is that it thinks that reality is absolutely real. And so it grows up in that sense. And the other thing that it experiences is that everything that it sees out there, like trees and the sky and other people, also seem to be only real. They seem to be objects arising. People, the sky, whatever's happening is an object that's happening to me. It's something that's happening to me. I'm in here, and the world and the sky and feelings and thoughts that arise even in here are something that I am having. They are mine and they are real. And the difficulty with that is, or what's dissatisfying about that is that there's a sense that arises, not for everyone, but for a lot of sensitive people, there's a sense that there's something dissatisfying about being separate, about living in a separate reality in which everything is apart from me. Everything is out there apart from me. I'm here and that's out there. That's dissatisfying. Most people don't recognise that there's anything much wrong with that in any deep sense. So they go on living their lives in that sense of lack without necessarily recognising it. But everything they do, money, lovers, power or whatever, everything they do is a sort of way of comforting themselves for a lack that they don't necessarily recognize. Because most people absolutely are sure that they are real, I am real, and they are sure that they can influence their story. And so they live in what I call that dream world. It's a dream. The separate reality of me being real is a dream. People who feel more sensitive want to find out why they feel a lack. There's something missing. So they go to religion or therapy, or they might go to somebody who teaches enlightenment. Because the individual is convinced that it has to do it. The individual is convinced that it has to make its life work. And at whatever level that is, be it religious or to do with enlightenment, there's still a conviction that I have to do it. So I have to learn how to become fulfilled. If I can learn how to become fulfilled, one day I, the self, will be fulfilled. So what we're exposing here is the possibility that all of that is just an illusion. The possibility that, first of all, the construct of me is literally that. It's an artificial construct which can collapse, which comes and goes. I mean, every night in deep sleep, there's no one. There's just what is. And then dreaming begins, and the whole, gathering together of me takes place. And then when the me wakes up the next morning, me believes it's stopped dreaming. But in reality, it's in the dream of me. And that me, gathers itself together and presents itself to the world. It has to do that. And it learns to do that. And that's the other thing that we can expose, the way in which me takes on roles. It takes on a certain role because it's learnt that that's the way it works in the world. That's how it can manipulate in the world and make its life apparently seem better. And the other thing that's interesting is that me takes on two levels of itself. There's the higher self and the lower self. The lower self is interested just in pleasuring itself, but the higher self looks for something better. It might look for a better job or doing something to help people in the world or being richer or whatever. And those who are more sensitive would look for being purer, being still, being silent, being loving, being a good person, helping to save the world. All those roles are attractive to the higher me, but it's still a me. The me's still in this strange dream in which it thinks it can follow a higher calling. And so there are many teachers in the world, teachers of religion and teachers of enlightenment and teachers of therapeutical development. There are many teachers in the world who appeal to that sense in me that it has a higher self. The other thing that teaching does is to confirm something that's held in the psyche as well of me, and that is unworthiness. Because at a very early age, suddenly it seems to me as though it's lost something, though it's been cast out of something that it knew was wonderful. It then grows up with a sense of being unworthy. And any teaching which tells it that it can change or develop or be purer or be quieter is very attractive to me because it satisfies that sense of not being good enough. So all of that we can talk about together, we can share all those things that seem to go on, and in some way or other, what may become apparent is that the whole construct of me is artificial. And it keeps people imprisoned in the sense that they have to seek something. The other thing that can emerge is that what the seeker is seeking, what the seeker really longs for, has never been lost. What the seeker really longs for is constantly all there is. And the seeker's rushing around in a circle looking for something that already is all there is. And this is a mystery. We're talking about a paradox here. This is a deep paradox. It can't be understood. But in some way or other, what seems to happen is that in some way or other there can be a clearing away or a crumbling of the sense of me through just looking at it. And the other thing that can happen, or does seem to happen, is absolutely beyond words. I said this last night, that essentially the most liberating thing that goes on when people are gathered together with the possibility of there being something that is beyond me, something beyond self-seeking, then there can be an energetic shift out of the contracted sense of being in this body, and that can simply melt back into the whole freedom that is all there is.
Just a hypothetical question.
Hypothetical?
Hypothetical.
Oh. You're not going to saw my leg off or anything?
No,
Oh.
I'm just curious.
That's a relief.
If you were a school teacher, and just for your very young kids, how would...
There would still be teaching them how to ride a bike or how to ride two and two together, because essentially it seems there's nothing that can be. This is not a teaching at all. There's nothing here that's a teaching, so there's nothing here that will be recommended. There's no prescription here, and because nobody can learn this or unlearn it, so therefore that also applies to kids. Children that are growing up are usually growing into having a great big ego, you know. Yeah, I had 4 kids and I could have shot all of them quite happily at one time, because they become monsters, you know, that they come into the world and they develop into big me's.
So this object-subject thing, which is happening, it's just
what's happening.
And you don't see, I wish it was different.
No, there's nothing wrong with separation. Separation and seeking and me is the absolute expression of wholeness. Wholeness can be anything, including that which seems to be separate from itself. There's nothing wrong or right with it, it's just what's happening.
Yeah. And maybe it could happen differently.
Well, it probably does and
if you were a school teacher.
I have a feeling there are people who are born who never become separate. I've never met one, but why not? There aren't any rules.
Okay.
There aren't any rules.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with anything. There's nothing wrong with seeking or separation. It's just what's happening. That's what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is what's happening.
This question comes, of course, from a nostalgic feeling, like if we had known earlier, or have heard this message before.
Right, yeah. Well, I have the same feeling. If
young.
I'd heard this message as Tony Parsons before I died, I might have died earlier, but you can't say it, you can't. There's no way you can. What is what is. I could, you know, as a seeker, I sensed that this was around, what's being shared together. And you could say in the history of seeking, there's always been this communication, but it's been very, very hidden and overlaid by teachings. It's only really available if there's a readiness to hear it.
Yeah, you learn not to listen to it.
At least looking beyond me.
Tony, if I'm in deep sleep, am I in the natural reality?
Sorry?
When this body is in deep sleep, is that body in the natural reality?
Well, the body is just a thing. It's just something that's happening.
Yes.
Me is the dreamer in the body, and me dreams that the body is mine. It's my body.
Yes.
When in deep sleep there is nothing. There's just
so there is
what is in. You could say without anything seeming to happen. So there is no me. There's just what is.
Okay, so you don't have to.
There's no body even. Where's the body?
No. Yes. So you don't have to be aware that you have lost your me, or
You
know,
never
it
will
happens.
be aware that you've
No.
lost your me.
Yeah.
Me is liberation is the death, the end
Yes.
of something that was never ever happening.
Yes.
That's not recognized until there's nobody there.
Yes, and
anymore.
yeah.
Me is an illusion. It's not really happening.
So I just stay in this grotto of Plato to forever until something
Well, either
shows
that
me the.
until tea time today. Why not?
Well, yeah.
Why do you have to always think you're going to be me? You know, people say to me, "Oh, when I leave here, I'll be back again. Me will be back. You know, I'll leave this meeting. I feel wonderful at the moment. But when I leave the meeting, me will be back." You know, so people sort of plan the whole thing again. You know,
Yeah.
here we go again.
Yeah, I know. If I may again, it's
Is that on? I think it is.
looks on.
Okay.
What I miss is you say it's when the me dies, there's only love. Sometimes you mention the word beloved, and and you say it's completely free. It's completely bliss.
No.
It's not.
No.
It's not bliss. Well, okay. Well,
Bliss is really boring. It's nothing to do with bliss.
yeah.
No, all there is the beloved. All there is unconditional love already.
Yes.
There is something in that thinks it's apart from that.
Yes.
And suddenly when that thing that thinks it's apart is no more, then there's just unconditional love.
Mm. Well, because I have this sort of naive feeling that if you recognize the unconditional love, that you would, sort of melt and.
No, me can't recognise unconditional love.
No, I know.
Me lives
It is.
Me lives in an artificial reality, subject-object, a finite reality. It can't recognise the infinite.
No.
It rushes all over the place looking for it, but.
Yeah.
But what's strange and in a way ironic about it is that the infinite is all there is here. The infinite is shouting the loudest noise in this room. Everything that's happening to these bodies here is the infinite, speaking through aching limbs or feeling warm or hearing sounds or thinking thoughts. That is the infinite. But the me thinks it's something special out there somewhere, or when I've meditated for another month or eaten rice or something. The infinite is what is. It's this. This is the infinite.
You've said that the me can disappear very quickly. Can it also disappear very slowly?
Either. In a sense, this is again this paradox. There isn't anything to disappear, but all the time there's a sense of a me, then the me thinks there's something wrong that it wants to put right. So for the me, it's all very well saying to it, that me is the absolute expression of wholeness and there's nothing wrong with that. But for the me, that's just a concept. Me feels dissatisfied and bereft. Me longs for home. But when home arises, when me dies and home arises, it's then recognised that there's some point where it's recognised there never was a me. There never was a me to not be there anymore.
But then what recognizes if the me's not there?
What recognises it is is no thing. No thing, wholeness recognizes that there never was anything other than wholeness, and that it itself had pretended to be a me. Me is just a pretense. Me is wholeness pretending to be a me, just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's not there. But it never was there.
There are times where I feel like I'm really in a dream,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's just menopause. It's like,
Well, I can't share with you that.
but where everything feels really unreal,
Right.
and that is just happening.
Well, in a sense, you could say it's quite good to say everything seems unreal, because actually everything is real and unreal.
Yeah.
The problem for me is it thinks it's only real. It can't see the unreal, of course. If it could, it wouldn't be there. So,
Yeah.
in a sense, liberation is the sudden recognition that everything is real and unreal. Everything is no thing being this. It's an amazing revelation, but nobody has it.
Yeah.
Hello. Realizing there is no hope, no meaning, or anything to do, left this in a huge despair, and this
Yeah.
is also wholeness
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Mm.
It's wonderfully awful.
Yeah, can barely stand it.
Sorry?
Barely stand it.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's about everything being lost.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is lost. So that everything that the me has, like hopes and dreams, just are lost. Everything that me owns is lost. Me is a rich man. It's more difficult for a rich man to enter the kingdom of, that guy. Yeah. It's about a loss. So the other thing that's frightening about it is obviously the loss of everything is frightening, but also another thing that me dreams that it does is to be in control. Me dreams that it is in control. I mean, I've met people who can't believe that anything could happen without me. It's amazing. The arrogance of me thinks that life can't happen without me, but also me believes it's in control. So the idea that it would suddenly lose itself or lose control is also frightening. Of course, what's amusing about it in the end is the recognition that me never had control, never had anything. It was just a dream energy which is completely and utterly useless. But seeming to be very powerful.
Again, hypothetical. If the ego falls away more.
You mean
has
the
to,
me?
Yeah, the me. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Some people call it the ego.
Yeah. Is the perception of this me changing?
No, there's a recognition by nothing, by no one, that there never was a me. And thereafter, there just is what is and isn't. So there's nothing left. There's no one left. There isn't something that knows it's at one and all that rubbish, or knows its own true nature, whatever that means.
Yeah.
There's nothing left but openness, but boundlessness. In that, there's a body and a brain that seems to respond and function, but there's nobody doing it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So in answer to your question, there's no longer a perception of me because there never was a me, but there can be a recognition that there was one time a dreamer called me, called Tony Parsons, that rushed around all over the place looking for something it never could find.
This question comes out of a few experiences that things dramatically seem to change.
Oh yeah.
Like there's talking and I don't understand it anymore.
No.
It's the sound or... on my way here I saw a truck, but it seemed to disappear. And I feel like I'm contracting now.
Yeah.
But this is something completely different.
Yeah, thereafter, everything is seen as it really is. So the seeker, that which is separate, when it perceives the chair, within it, the chair is something that's solid. So the perception from the seeker, from the separate one, is that the chair is an object. So within the experience of me, the chair is made of concrete. It's a real thing. When suddenly this thing that perceives that collapses and is no more, suddenly the chair is seen as it really is, real and unreal. In other words, it's atoms, particles, subparticles. In scientific physicians scientists have already established this. That in the end, actually, the chair is just energy chairing. There isn't even a particle or a quark. It's just pure energy appearing as a chair. Now, there isn't something in here that thereafter could say, oh, that's just energy, that's just... But that is actually now what is, you could say, seen by no one, that everything is just energy. Everything is energy. And suddenly it really is what it really is. And that's where you could say also, and the trouble with this is that the mind interprets it as something else, everything is seen as it really is, which is unconditional love, appearing as this. It's an appearance of unconditional love. Wow. Wow.
No fear.
Yeah, no. But fear can arise, anything can arise, because there's nothing left. So all that's left is everything, and in everything there's fear or anger or any of those things. But there is no longer happening to anyone. There's complete freedom. But it's very natural and ordinary and very simple and direct. Everything is very direct. There's nothing sticky in the way. So when anger arises, there isn't something that it holds on to because there's nothing it can hold on. Oh, anger arises and falls away. Everything, everything is new. Everything is new.
Thank you.
There's no distance too?
No distance, no. There's no space. If you mean by that space.
Yes.
There's no space between this and that.
Yes.
There's no. You're not over there.
No. But how is it possible? If there is no subject here, then my perception is immediately, directly. I'm everything. There's no distance. I don't understand why at this time I perceive distance.
Well, I don't know what that is perceiving distance. What perceives distance or
That there is
or a space or separation in that sense. So it depends what you mean by distance. This could say that there's about 7 foot or whatever meters are, 2 meters. But that's meaningless, that's just knowledge. I mean, this knows that London's somewhere over there in England, but that's just knowledge. That's nothing to do with the living energy of the non-dual reality or of the wholeness. So
But in direct perception, there's no. In direct perception, there's no distance.
No, I have to say that it's not direct perception. I'm sorry about this. If we're talking about a paradox here, there isn't something here that perceives there's no distance. There's just no distance.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But how? It is knowledge that creates the illusion of distance.
Me creates the illusion of there being distance, or depends what you mean by distance. Space. There's a space between this and that.
Yeah. Yes.
Basically, I don't know if scientists have also established that space and time are just constructs.
Yes.
So me constructs the idea that time is something that's real and space is real.
But it's not real.
It's real and unreal.
Yes.
Everything is real and unreal.
Yeah.
There isn't anything that isn't real and unreal. Mm-hmm. There isn't anything that isn't no thing appearing as something. This is no thing appearing as this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real and it's unreal.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's real. So one of the difficulties in this sort of setting is that a lot of people in the audience who think they are me, who live in the dream of me, also think there's a me here.
Yes.
So they think I have something, or I have a knowledge, or I'm offering something that I have. Mm-hmm. They can't get away from that. The me can't get away from that.
No.
Me has me, so he must have me as well. You know, he must have something he's offering.
Yes.
Whereas actually, if you really hear this message, actually there's nothing on offer at all. There isn't anything being offered. All that's being offered is no thing. So here, there's nothing for sale. This is one of the few meetings that an individual can come to, which for the individual is absolutely pointless. There's nothing here for the individual at all, because the individual isn't recognized in that way. There's a recognition that there are bodies in the audience that might claim to be an individual, but there's no recognition of that energy because it's an illusion. Thank you.
So everything is real and unreal, and even the me is real and unreal.
Yeah.
Is
It is and it isn't.
Oh, the battery's gone out, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But isn't even the me, maybe even, because you say that after liberation, then it's realized that the me never was there. So couldn't you
Well, it is realised that the me is real and unreal, but the me thinks it's only real.
But it's gone then. I mean,
Well, it never came. Nothing, everything is not, nothing comes and goes. There is, we're again talking about a total paradox here. There is only the infinite. This is the infinite. Time, space, separation, me, is simply an appearance of the infinite. What you're trying to do is sort of make
it's funny
something
because
measurable.
the me now thought, well, at least I'm also real.
Yes, you could say that. Yeah. Real and unreal.
But it has no idea, of course.
How do you deal with the unreal?
Yeah, that's just a part of it. So, but it's not any difference between the me me and anything is real.
No, of course not.
It's not like it's
there's
a
no
difference in it.
It's nothing appearing to be me.
Yeah, nothing is different. Also, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, that's why there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with anything. There's only what seems to be happening. All of this is what's happening, apparently. So there's nothing to change or put right. But teachers try to change or put something right, make something better. There isn't anything to make better. This is fulfillment. This is fulfillment. And so is this.
Hi, I'm a teacher.
Teacher of what? Teacher of?
Leadership,
Leadership, yeah.
teams, collaboration. And I really feel useless now.
Sorry?
I really feel useless now because...
Oh, God, that's good.
Yeah.
But it's only a job. You're only within the dream. All you're doing is helping people to make the dream better. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, it doesn't feel like that.
Right. I mean, there are people who are therapists who come to these things, and there's nothing wrong with that either. They're just trying to help someone. But what's interesting about that is that sometimes they stay in that work because that's what they do. And when the me that was there teaching therapy drops away, then strangely enough, somewhere the way they then communicate with other people seems to change with that. And also the people that come to them seem to be ready to see something that's beyond. What you're doing, is it business leadership or? Yeah.
Does it make a difference then?
No.
Oh, okay. It makes more money in business, so that's...
Well, that's cool. Go for it, man.
I will, yeah.
And anyway, there's nothing you can do about it. That thing there is useless.
But
it does what it does. You
it's
can't
really
suddenly say,
frustrating.
I'm not going to do this anymore. You can't do it.
No. But that's, it's like I started to listen to you, or at least on YouTube, for like 2 years ago, and suddenly, before that, I had I had a goal in life, and now it's like, what's the use?
Yeah.
Where's the goal?
So your life has been ruined, really, in a way.
Yeah, well. I don't think it was the answer I was looking for. But and if I'm going to ask you, is there any hope? You would probably say no.
No, absolutely
Because I came here to somewhere.
No, there's no hope. But Claire and I have bought a huge building in England,
Yeah.
which people can go and live in when their lives are ruined. It's just all right.
Can I
We're
bring my wife
hoping to
as
make a
well?
lot of money out of it. Aftercare, yeah. Aftercare for the ruin. That's the whole idea of this, really. Oh, it's not on.
I don't know.
Oh,
yeah,
that's all
it's
right.
better. Okay, well, it's hard. I was a teacher before. I became a headmaster of a school now, so maybe that's an idea. Is there a difference between life and death?
Oh, no. No, they're both the same thing.
Can you explain to me?
Not really. This is the infinite. This is no thing. So you could call this death. It's let's go another way at it. When me dies in the body, within the living body, or at what we call death, the normal death, then at that point, when the body has ceased to function, what ceases with it is that contracted energy which has kept the me separate. And there's a recognition that there never was a me. But after that, it's just the same as before, simply because all there is no thing appearing as this. After death, that continues.
Yeah, but I'm afraid I can't feel then anymore.
You can't feel.
I'm not. I have no consciousness then when I am dead.
But you don't have consciousness now. This is not about being conscious. Consciousness means knowing, being aware of. That is only in the dream. After the dream dies and when the me collapses, there is nothing that knows or is conscious or is aware.
It sounds like complete freedom then.
Oh, it's complete freedom, but for no one. And there's no one that knows that, in that sense, in knowing. There is no one that knows that life is happening anymore. There's just life happening. And I mean, this goes against everything that me believes in. You know, this is what has just been said, because me believes that nothing could be alive without it being known or there being a consciousness. I mean, there are teachers who constantly say all there is consciousness. Of course there isn't. If all there is consciousness, why is unconsciousness? All there is consciousness is a denial of a whole realm that is unknowable. So absolutely, when death occurs, all there is what is, but before death occurs, all there is what is as well. It's a mystery, it's a paradox.
It's a mystery, really.
Do you think the me could also survive if the body dying? Then the me could also surviving in some way.
Could also.
If it's the same, like if you're in a body or not, so the me could also surviving without body?
No.
No, you
No,
don't?
but the me is only a brain construct. It's only a construction of the brain, well, although it's a construction out of nothing, but the brain is nothing braining, and the brain constructs an artificial me. Me is a construction. It's an artificial construction. When the brain ceases to function, so does the artificial construction.
Yes, but I heard about many stories or people who died who don't really go.
Yeah, I've heard those too. Yeah.
And you don't think that's.
I don't. Wouldn't even give it house room. I mean, it's just the me. One of the main energies of me is to survive. So it'll create any way it can to continue after death, resurrect after death, all that stuff. Reincarnation. People who go to big theatres and tell other people that they can speak to their father who's died, and all this. It's simply the me's need to continue. It's a complete fabrication. It collapses in the living body or at death. It's simply the collapse of something of another appearance. It's no more or less than that. And it, in that sense, it's simply an apparition that arises that is no longer there.
It's not if you believe on reincarnation, if this me believe on reincarnation and the body dies, it's not possible that the me...
The belief is simply another process. If the me believes in reincarnation, it can also believe that it will be happy all its life, but it doesn't actually work because it's another... because married to belief is doubt. Married to belief is also doubt. Belief and doubt live together. So belief is just another thought process which has no power at all. People will tell you that it has power. Teachers will tell you that. But the idea that the me can believe that it will live after death is simply an idea. Don't forget that, what's being said here is that me is simply a contracted energy. And the energetic sense of me is held in the body. And that energetic sense of me is far more powerful than any belief that it is there or it could be removed. It's just an idea, just a thought.
And
it's not energy is far more powerful than thought.
And the personality is just a thing of the body of
the personality is what me presents to the world to make its life work. Personality is like the ego, it's like what me presents. The personality is a persona, it's a mask that me presents to the world to make its life work. All of that collapses. Can you pass the mic over?
I'm attracted by what you said, and I'm frightened. And, I have no question, but...
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this is frightening. I was talking about this in France, and I did my opening talk, and then after a little while somebody stood up in the audience and said, "Tony, this is terrifying," because immediately it was recognized. Immediately it was recognized what was really being said. And for me, this is terrifying. It's the end.
And I feel that there is a longing for that, and also this... everything but that.
Everything, anything but that. That's why me seeks, because subtly it knows it will never find what it's looking for, but by seeking it can avoid this. It can avoid its own end, it thinks. Because seeking is a constant activity. Obviously it is, because you're running around a circle getting nowhere. So that's one of the ways that me tries to avoid its own end, its absence. There's a mic. Oh, here you are.
So, if this me falls away, the thought patterns can be the same, movement, way of performing, but just for nobody.
Yeah.
Because in my head there was a dream or a conviction that when you are free,
well, in a
everything
sense,
changes.
Well, actually, everything does become what it really is.
But also in a physical way and in an emotional way.
Well, there's a relaxation in the body and far more energy. To keep the me going is very tiring. People die of it.
Yeah, I recognize.
But to keep the me in the game of the world is a lot. There's a lot of effort in that. And so when that energy collapses, there's a sort of let go in the body of that holding on. And that let go of that holding on also can bring a lot more energy. The energy that is used in keeping me going is no longer needed, so there's more energy in the body, usually.
I understand. Yeah. Now I can see now that my conviction was just my longing to.
Well, yeah, but
to be wild in a way.
Of course, everything is transformed
and not
into
to behave
what it naturally is. So everything is unconditional love. But of course, there's no one that happens to. So you won't. But you won't be any better off. You'll be dead. You won't be there when it happens.
Yeah, then I have no questions too.
The me can only recognize what it can see. How is it possible for the me to recognize his end in nothingness? He doesn't know.
No, it can't. It only lives in a real reality.
Yeah, but why is there the fear of death or the end of the me? The me can't understand that. He can't. How can a me be afraid of something he doesn't know?
Oh, well, it can be afraid of the unknown. Me is afraid of what it can't know. It can't know what we've just described, so it's afraid of losing itself in something unknowable. I mean, me is frightened of dying. Have you noticed that? Frightened of dying. You know, there are hospitals and ambulances rushing around stopping people dying. You know, and we watch films about people dying, and that's the worst thing that could possibly happen. Because in a sense, it's a feeling of losing something and losing control. So the me is only frightened of something that it can't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
How can you be afraid of something you don't know?
Oh, easily. That's what it is all the time. Me invariably lives in fear of what it can't know. It wants to know everything. It wants to be in control. Me doesn't do this itself, but it actually lives in what, as near as it can, in a predictable world. Mm-hmm. That's why its life becomes sort of dull and dusty, because it thinks it knows the road it's walking down. It thinks it knows the wife it's married. You know, it thinks it knows everything. It tries to know everything. It wants to know that Mars is made of rock and once had a life on it. It wants to know everything in order that it can be predictable and safe. When it collapses, what's left is dangerous and alive and unpredictable. So it's fine to that.
But it is afraid of loss of control, not afraid of nothing.
Afraid of losing control and afraid of life. It's afraid of aliveness.
But not of nothingness. You can't.
Well,
can a me understand
no.
nothingness? How can you be afraid of something you don't know?
Easily. Ask anybody. Right, there's one going.
I can understand that you make up your own thoughts.
No, no, not at all.
The me?
You don't do anything. Me is a completely useless piece of energy which doesn't do anything at all, but it believes that it makes its own thoughts. It believes it can create its own life. It's a joke.
And what about my feelings?
You don't have any. Well, what you're doing is you are in the dream. My feelings, my wife, my thoughts, my car. There is no my. There's no me to own anything.
And at this moment we all are looking at you.
Well, you think you're looking at me. Don't worry about anywhere else. So you believe that you are looking at me. The me is looking at me and seeing me. Seeing something over here. Yeah?
Mm. So what about you?
Well, I don't see. I'm not looking at anything. There is only what is. There's no me. There's just what is.
I will think about it.
Okay. Me will think about it.
If what you say is true, and this is all a dream state that we're in.
The me dream, yeah.
Yes. Why take an effort and wake everybody up?
Well, I'm not waking anybody up. I won't ever wake anybody up. There isn't anybody to wake up. This is all there is here is what's happening. There's nobody doing it. There's no agenda. There's nothing here trying to get anywhere. There's nowhere to get to because all there is everything.
Okay, and the positive outcome of this is?
There's no positive outcome.
There is no positive outcome.
Hi.
It's all horrible.
Hi, Tony.
I am part. No, no, no. The whole is playing Ellie. My name is. I think my name is Ellie. The whole is playing Ellie. Ellieing, you would say.
It's Ellieing, yeah.
Ellieing. If yeah, I don't know how to put it in words, but if I would lose the me, I
if
wouldn't think
Ellie
of me.
died, Ellie died.
If Ellie died, yeah, well, yes. Then there is still the whole playing Ellie. I mean, Ellie is sitting. There's. I don't know how to put it in words.
Ellie isn't sitting there. That's a body. There's a thing sitting on a seat.
Yes, without a me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, clearly.
You've got it. You can go now. Have you paid? That's all that matters to me.
Sorry, what did you say?
No, it's a joke. It's a joke.
I mean, when you're a teacher, I can help him, perhaps. The whole can go on playing a teacher.
Well, he can't do anything. Nobody does anything.
The whole can.
There's no such. Oh, the me, the whole, yeah.
The whole can think
pretend to be him being a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And giving up hope and living in a desperate, terrible state for the rest of his life. No.
No, I don't think so.
Yes,
the whole.
but there isn't anyone there that can do anything or not do anything.
But the whole playing a teacher, or the whole playing Hitler, like you said some years ago, perhaps the whole needs to have experience. Or
No,
so?
not at all. No,
No?
that's sweet. That's another
That's an
lovely
old
idea
Indian
that teachers have. Wholeness wants to experience itself, you know, because teachers live in a dualistic world in which they can know something, and they also believe in sweet. But consciousness or wholeness, which is like God really, in their eyes, experiments at not knowing itself so that it can come back and know itself, like a love story. Oh, it's bullshit. It's just, wholeness doesn't need to know itself. It's already everything. Why would it need to know that it's everything? In order to know itself, it would have to step outside itself, be separate from itself to know itself. It's bullshit. It's this thing here that has to live in its little narrow world where everything is known.
I think it's a very old Indian.
Oh well, it's even worse if it's old and Indian.
Yeah. I don't mean really.
Tony? Hi. Could you explain us the difference in experiencing reality before you died and now?
Okay, so the difference, first of all, is that there's no one that experiences reality now, whereas previously Tony Parsons experienced reality or experienced what was happening as happening to Tony Parsons. And also the experience of what was arising was that it was real, only. So that was when that collapsed, that whole apparent separate reality collapsed. There is nobody here that experiences anything. There's nobody here. There's nothing left but what is happening. And the difference then is that what is happening is simply real and unreal, but there isn't anything that knows that. There isn't something here that knows that. This explanation or this description is simply coming out of no thing. It's no thing describing itself in words. So no thing is both real and unreal. No thing is and isn't. No thing is the formless form. No thing is the relative absolute. No thing is the empty fullness. But that can't be described. It's a paradox. It's a mystery, which me can never know, because me lives in a subject-object reality, which is artificial. So me experiences everything as an object or as something else out there happening to something in here.
But it seems like you know this.
No,
now.
I know, it seems like that's what happens in this sort of situation. Because me, if there's a me in the audience, the me thinks there's a me here who knows something. There isn't anything that's known. This description isn't coming out of a knowledge or an understanding. It's coming out of nothing.
So you don't have a. You're not conscious now. You don't have an awareness now.
No, I'm not conscious. There is no one here that's conscious. There's no consciousness.
But.
There isn't something that's conscious or knows that it's standing here. There's just standing here. But even if I use those words, that might think that how can I use those words without knowing it? I'm sorry, I can't tell you. You can't know that because you can only understand that I would know I'm standing here. Let's go a little deeper with this. I can say all there is standing here, but I can't tell you what that's like either. I can't tell you what this is like because it's unknowable.
But you do have an experience now.
No, not at all, no. I don't have anything. The difference between this and that is that this has lost everything. Everything's over. There's nothing here. That I still own something. You. And directly you think you're real and that you are something, then everything else transforms back into an object.
You don't have a sense of.
I don't have a sense.
Sense of me standing here.
I don't have a sense. I don't have anything. There is only what is. That's the natural reality.
So the words that come out of your mouth are just flowing out of your mouth.
Absolutely. There's nothing in the way of them. There's nothing doctoring them or monitoring them or judging them. They just come out. But the words can't describe what is and isn't. It's impossible to describe what is and isn't. It can't be known. When there's no one, it's obvious. When there's someone, it's a mystery. And the other thing that's interesting about it is there's nothing more important or relevant about standing on the floor, the sky, music. Everything is simply what is. There isn't anything that's more important and there isn't anything that's significant. There's no longer any significance in anything because everything is unconditional love. For the me lives in the idea that one thing is more important than another. This will help me make my story better. It's important to be silent or still. It's important to be rich. It's important to have lots of lovers. Whatever. That's the one I preferred out of all of them, actually. But you know, it's that somewhere there's the me is always locking into something which will help it make itself better, feel better. When that collapses, there's nothing that wants to feel better because everything is unconditional love. Yeah? Does that help?
Yeah, somehow, yeah. I just try to understand it in a practical way.
No, you can't. It's not practical. This is not about anything logical or sensible. This is crazy for the me. This is what we're talking about here for the me is crazy.
Like if you walk into a supermarket now, or if you or you drive a car, or you do very daily things.
Well, I don't do them. Driving a car happens. Going to a supermarket happens. They are just what is happening. Nobody's doing them. So there's not something trying to do them properly or not. They just happen.
And how? I mean. What's the
Don't forget the brain is still functioning, I think, anyway. Yeah. So the brain, there's a direct... When me is asked whether it would like tea or coffee, The brain has already decided when during the question. It has a committee meeting and decides within a split second that it's going to be tea. Then it tells me that it's going to choose tea if there is a me construct there. And the me gets the message of tea about 2 or 3 seconds after the brain's already decided. Okay. When there's no me, it's just instantly a direct. The brain just says, and this just says tea. There's nothing that's in the way of that. There's nothing that receives a choice. There's just an apparently direct choice out of the brain. So everything is very direct. And so everything is completely spontaneous. And functioning actually begins to happen. Functioning then doesn't have anything in the way of it. And me functions at about 60%.
How could you look at intuition? Is it a kind of bridge between this old state and this?
How can I
look at intuition?
Intuition? I don't look at intuition. There is intuition. Yeah. There isn't anything here that looks at anything.
No.
There's just what is.
Yeah. For me, it feels like a bridge.
Rich.
Like a bridge.
A bridge.
A connection to this the other state of being.
Right. Okay, well, the bridge has collapsed here. Most of the people in this room have glimpsed wholeness. They didn't glimpse it really, but there was wholeness and then they came back and wanted that. Thereafter, there's a sort of meing and being going on, so there's a bridge between the two. Then suddenly that bridge collapses and there's nothing left. But not always. There are some people that stay in me, meing and being.
The way I understand you is that it takes a me in order to have experience. Otherwise, there is just what is, and then that there's not even a defining of what's happening, because whatever's happening is just happening.
Totally,
yeah.
No defining of any kind. You know, me is always judging what's happened and what might happen and da-da-da and do them. It's got a measuring tape. It's always measuring everything and analysing it and wanting to know it. That's over.
When the me is gone, and the brain is
apparently
gone, yeah, and the brain is still functioning, is it a way of stimulus-response reaction?
Is it a
way of stimulus-response? Something happens and the brain reacts, and that's it. No analysing,
bang,
no doubting, nothing.
No, there can still be something here that can try to understand something about how something works or how you get from here to there or whatever. That sort of analysis can still go on, obviously, because the brain can do that. But in terms of natural response in functioning, it's just direct function.
Yes, it's the machines.
It's the natural
the machines
functioning.
still
Everything
working.
is like that. Yeah.
But there are no why questions.
No, there's nothing in the way.
No.
But let's make it also clear that the human physiology is the only thing that retains, that can create this artificial me that gets in the way of everything.
Yeah.
Nothing else does. Everything else is direct.
And the me is a construct of a brain as well. And there are memories from the time that you were a me.
Oh, but there can still be memories now, and memories are what is. So a memory of eating breakfast this morning isn't eating breakfast this morning, it's a memory of it, and it is what is happening, apparently happening.
But this morning your me was dead already.
Sorry?
But this morning, but before your me was...
didn't have breakfast this morning.
No. So, but there are, in your brain, there are memories of Tony Parsons having breakfast.
No, what I'm trying to explain is that memory can still happen when there's no me. You don't need a me for there to be memory. A memory, like standing on the floor is simply what is.
Yes, I
and
understand
isn't.
that. But you have a life before you.
Oh, okay.
Me
right.
was gone.
So we're finished with breakfast this morning now.
Yes, we finished with breakfast this morning. I want to go right back.
Oh, right.
When you were still
okay,
there.
There could still be a memory of Tony Parsons.
Yes, but it's completely different, I think.
Oh, yes, but it's still what is. The memory of there being somebody called Tony Parsons rushing around looking for this, or whatever, it doesn't matter, is still what is.
Okay, and pops up in your brain sometimes.
Can do, not very often now.
I see. Mm-hmm. Nice and quiet.
I mean, in a way, talking about this, I can say that my memory of Tony Parsons was that he felt that he lived within this skin, that he was bounded by this skin and lived in this body. So there we are, isn't it? Yeah. But that explanation is what is. Yeah. Apparently.
Hi, Tony. So, nobody decides to come here?
No. Well, Claire says, you go there and make some money. No.
Yeah.
It's all right, she doesn't, no. But that's a joke. But no, nobody says, it just is what happens. Like there's somebody here who said to us, he came to the meeting and he said, oh, come to Copenhagen and do a meeting. So, it's what happened.
But you have to do something in life, isn't it?
I don't have to do anything. There's nobody here that does anything. Isn't that wonderful? It's the ultimate laziness. There's nobody here that does anything. There is just doing, apparent doing.
And there's nobody who decides to do something in his life, or whatever?
Apparent choice seems to take place in the brain, because the brain is nothing braining. So that apparent choice comes out, like everything else, comes out of no thing.
And you just have to listen to that thoughts and do something.
I don't have to do it. There's nothing here anymore. There's just response. There isn't anything that has to listen to anything. There's just response.
So the thoughts come up and go away, or?
Yeah.
But if you are hungry, you go to
well,
eat
I'm
something.
not hungry, but hunger can arise, and usually eating follows that. In my case, very quickly. And a lot.
Okay, sounds so easy. Thank you.
Oh, it's easier than easy.
Tony, sorry. I find that when I do something foolish, that my ego goes, oh, you silly ass, look what you just did, that kind of thing, and I laugh at myself. Does that kind of thing still arise?
Well, I don't do anything foolish. But that's because I don't do anything.
So
no,
what is enjoying Tony so much up there?
Enjoying is what's happening. But there isn't something judging in that sense something else as foolish or wrong in that way.
So even something that's funny to me, I'm trying to imagine, I see you laugh all the time.
Not all the time, I wouldn't be able to communicate that. But there's a lot of joy in this, but there isn't anybody that has that, it's just a joyful thing. Obviously it's joyful because it's free and unconditional love, so that's joyful.
So could it be described as a product of Tony Parsons' brain's conditioning?
What, the joy?
The laughing at certain things, finding
well,
certain things amusing?
even when there was Tony Parsons, he was always quite often laughing, you know. But in a way it's a characteristic. But also in freedom, there's obviously a joy, but that isn't there all the time. There can be joy and there can be anything else. It's like a freedom. Suddenly there's a freedom. And you could also say that the story, which Tony Parsons or any me thinks is incredibly important and significant, is seen through simply as a play of light. This wholeness playing at a story. So it's lost its seriousness or its power. It's lost its power.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand if you see through what's happening, or if they're seeing through what's happening. And this is difficult for me to ask how to put it into the right words. I'm trying to figure out where is the seeing through. It's not in Tony Parsons.
No. It's a description of what seems to be there. It's a description of something which is already over. The idea that the story has any power collapses with me. So the story is now just play. And directly, the problem with this is that directly this chart starts to describe something, then it would be assumed that this knows that, or this has that facility.
Mm-hmm. And so that's actually just, it's not the conditioning of Tony Parsons' brain and his perspective, it's
what is. What is that this is wholeness arising as this, and wholeness can also arise as an apparent story, which no longer has anything that it can overpower. It's just play.
So there seems to be a perspective to what you say, and I wonder if somebody who had been raised in an entirely different environment than Tony Parsons was raised in would have the same way of describing it. Is it?
Well, possibly they, but there are other apparent people who aren't there anymore, who have this in their own, in a way, a perspective which is the same as this, and that is, it's obvious that there's nothing, that the story has no longer any power, and that everything that's arising is simply what is and what isn't. Of course, there's quite a lot of people who here we go. There are quite a lot of non-people for whom that is apparent. It's the nearest I can get to it. Oh yeah.
So it would be safe to say that the way that it's being described here today is in the language of
the natural reality. Yeah.
Okay, so not in the machine of Tony Parsons' language, just a universal language? Do you follow what I'm...
Of course, there isn't a language for this. There can't be a language for that which can't be known. The language that's being used here is pointing to that. It can't describe it. And the language that other people would use, although there's hardly anybody that communicates this, there are a lot of people that, you'll have to excuse us, a lot of people who live in the natural reality, who are the natural reality now, but they're not communicators. But there are one or two who can communicate this, but it would be out of their own characteristic way of communication.
That's what I'm asking.
But it's not anything to do with me. The characteristics of this body, mind, physiology here have nothing to do with me. The characteristics are built into the DNA of the physiology before the child is even born. And that me isn't needed for there to be characteristics. Just sound of the voice, the way that person moves, whatever, has nothing to do with me.
So does conditioning play a part in that also?
Conditioning, the brain conditions itself as the body grows, so the brain takes on conditioning and deals with different traumas and so on. That largely collapses when me collapses, but the brain can still retain that conditioning after liberation. What happens is that because it can't find anybody to talk about it anymore, it slows down and slows down and slows down.
I would never describe you as slow.
Well, no, but the trauma that was there previously no longer has any hold because there's nothing that it can hold on to. There's nothing that feeds it.
Okay, thank you. Tony, could you talk a little more about what it's like living with others after liberation, what the difference is?
What it's like living with
with others, like your spouse, for instance, if one person is liberated and the other isn't, what the relating is like?
Well, there isn't anybody that relates. So if there's somebody, this is difficult because of the language, but if there is somebody living in the natural reality, living with somebody who's living in the separate reality, the one that's living in in the natural reality is no longer relating to anybody because there's no one to relate to. That, for the other person, can be difficult for a while because they're not any longer living with someone they thought was there. Because in the separate reality, as I said, people have a role that they fulfill, and there's a sort of agreement between people about how they live together or not even necessarily living together. When one of those is no more there, then that's a bit disorientating for the other one. When there's no one, when there's two no ones living together, it's a completely different ballgame. But this, there's meeting people who still are in the dream, but there's no longer any difficulty with that because it's recognized as just a dream state from which people respond. But there's no sense here of there being anyone there, but it can be heard in the language or the way in which that person reacts or responds to life. It's not a problem because already there's only what is.
A question from nothing to nothing then. You say there is a certain role you have to live. You say there's a role you live in your life as a me.
The me adopts.
Saying I've got a role to do, but I just was walking out in the tea time and I thought, well, what happens when some kind of universal joke occurs and we all dissolve our me's in this room and we go out there? There are still things to do.
No, hold on. I'm not quite with you at the moment.
Well,
going out there or being in
suppose
here. If there's a me, it lives in a separate reality.
Yes, but suppose suddenly all the me's in this room have been dissolved or died one way or another. We still go out there and
but no, you wouldn't. No, going out there would happen.
Okay, going out there would happen, and there would still be happening things like being a baker or somebody, or happening like baking bread or
apparently
cooking vegetables.
Apparently,
apparently.
For the me baking bread, me is real and is baking real bread.
Yeah.
When there's no one, there is apparently baking. There is apparently baking apparent bread.
Yeah.
The difference is immeasurable. You can't measure the difference between those two things.
No. I'm trying to. But
things go on happening, but only apparently. Yeah. Everything that goes on happening is both real and unreal now. Whereas for the me, it's only real.
Okay, but still there are bodies that needs to be fed.
No, well, there are bodies that are fed. Actually, strangely enough, there is nothing that has to happen or not happen. We're talking about a mystery. I'm really sorry about that, but there we are. Me can't comprehend this. Me thinks things have to happen and are needed to happen. I need to eat in order to survive. After the me collapses, there isn't anything that needs to eat in order to survive, because there's no one there to survive anyway. But eating seems to happen, and survival seems to happen. Or if eating doesn't happen, starvation happens and the body dies. There's nobody that can do anything about that.
But I don't think that all these people in this room would go out there and just cross the street because
neither do I.
There are
I don't think they would.
There are
I
trams
don't
running
think they
there.
would, but they might. The brain instinctively reacts to in order to survive in the body, of course. So walking in front of a bus doesn't usually happen, but it could, apparently. But it will only be an apparent bus. In a way, let me put it another way. Me is a completely and utterly useless piece of software. This world doesn't need me, it's just what seems to happen. If you believe that somehow the world wouldn't function or that wouldn't function without a me, then that's what's happening there. All that we're pointing out here is that that's possibly an illusion. But there isn't anything in here trying to convince that it needs a me or it doesn't need a me.
I've had the experience as Lisa, as having an automobile accident and everything slowing down.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a lack of time, and I'm aware of every single little thing that's happening around me. Are there any sense changes for without time for somebody who's liberated without that sense of time? Do you?
Only in the way I described before, that there's no longer any sense of separation, but it's not like everything slows down as it seems to in an accident or anything like that. I think that's something to do with brain functioning. Not in that sense, no, everything is as it was before, except that it's totally different.
Okay.
And there is no me to experience anything. What happens when you eat something sweet and there's nobody
then eating something sweet happens.
Yes, but there's nobody who experiences the sweetness.
There's just sweetness.
There is sweetness.
But, well, hold on a minute. Now there really is sweetness. Whereas before there was separate sweetness.
Okay.
The two are immeasurably different. You know, when there's no longer a me, there is just absolute passionate aliveness. Everything is full on, including pain, sweetness, whatever. Sound, whom. There isn't something in the way. There's no longer living with cling film around your senses.
There's nothing between it anymore.
There's nothing in the way.
Yeah.
Everything is full on and immediate. So,
I have another question. What would happen if this very instant everybody were to reach the realization that you already have?
well, hold on a minute.
State or realization?
I have not reached a realization. Surely you must have heard by now that liberation is simply the end of something that it thinks it can have realizations.
Okay, so the
It's
state.
the end of any one. There's nothing left but what is.
Okay. So if we were to reach that state, is that more correct?
You can't. I'm sorry.
No worries, no.
You never will reach
Doesn't matter.
that state. When
Yeah.
you die, there is only that. But even you being there is a dream.
Okay. So now that you've come to I'm afraid to say to realize you have reached a certain kind of.
Well, you're using the same language again.
I know.
What I think you're trying to say is that if there was no one here, if suddenly the whole illusion of there being somebody in here who is separate, what would that be like?
Exactly, because otherwise
like
you
this.
would be out of a job, of course, because then.
Well, that's a future projection.
Yeah.
But it would be like this. This is what it is like.
So there's not like a new beginning or whatever.
Oh,
some
no.
sort of state of.
Tony, is the Tonying projection of what I see of wholeness, is that without a me? Is your projection of...
I'm not projecting anything, but this is all there is what is.
But is what I am, because you're talking about a state where the appearance of us, right? The appearance the wholeness takes in the form of our shapes. We can be without a me. You spoke about the tea, where you can actually have a cup of tea. It can go via me, or it can go directly from your brain to having a cup of tea, right? Is that what it's like for you? Are you without the me?
No. There is no me that it is like. There's no me. There's nothing here that has that experience. There is just that.
So basically for you, it goes from the brain to having the cup of tea.
That's an explanation. It's a description of something which can't be comprehended. Yeah. Everything is immediate.
Yes.
There isn't an intermediary called me.
However, is it then a projection of my dream state that I feel you so very present?
So I didn't get that. Is it a projection of?
Well, in our dream state, you're here telling us a story.
No, I'm not. You will see that.
Yeah, that's
you're
the semantics. That's what I'm saying. So that's the projection of the dream, is that you're actually stood here telling us something. And you're saying I'm not. So I think years ago you were in the park, you had this moment. After
I've lost you now, but anyway, go on. Tony Parsons was in the park, and then
Tony
he wasn't.
Parsons was in the park, and now he no longer exists, right?
No, that's not either correct. There was never the Tony Parsons that arose was in the dream of being a separate individual. That dream collapsed.
Yes, so you're no longer a separate individual, you're part of a wholeness, and your appearance is here.
There's an this is wholeness appearing as this.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't do that in front of a guru. Very low-class disciples these days, aren't they?
Tony? Back here. I heard one time you say that sometimes, or Tony say that sometimes prior to liberation, the personality and ego can get even more extreme. Can you talk a little more about that?
Well, there can be an apparent awakening or an openness to what we're talking about here, let's say. And then there's a sort of middle place where me is there, and also there's a sense of being. So there's a dancing between the two. It seems to happen to most people. In that time, the meing energy, there can be a recognition that somewhere this could be the end of the meing energy, and so it becomes exacerbated by that situation and may try to become, or may seem to become more powerful. So we come across a lot of people feeling that in that situation they can often feel more neurotic about, or more self-conscious at times. There seems to be a sort of battle that goes on prior to the end of me. It's a bit like something that, like, I don't know whether you know, but if a fruit tree or a tree is dying, it can often throw out a lot of fruit before it dies. It's like a final exit dance. So me also has a final battle before its own death, or final exposure of itself, or expression of itself. Seems that, but that isn't a rule. It seems to happen to quite a lot of people. For other people, there is nothing like that happens. There aren't any rules. The other thing about this is that an apparent glimpse can happen, and that me energy can remain there for the rest of that person's life anyway, regardless of that. There aren't any rules. Just because a glimpse has happened, it doesn't mean that liberation will follow.
So I find with myself a change that's happening, and I don't know if it's just a psychological change or it might be something like what you're talking about, but I find that I'm just far less inhibited about whatever this is, just being what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I say, I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Well, there can be a loosening or a letting go of the original tightness with which me held on to, or tried to apparently hold on to that person's life or influence it. There can be a let go of that, but also the neurosis or the energy of me can become, apparently seem to become more powerful for a time. Because it's fighting for its life in a way.